Hello, dear friends, and welcome to my podcast. I'm Magda, and on today's episode, we will talk about perfectionism, procrastination, being self taught, do it yourself, creativity, and making things happen with Dan Harabagiu-Dimitrescu. Dan is a graphic designer with a master's degree that works also in shooting commercials, video making, video editing, and he is a certified drone pilot. He plays several instruments such as guitar, electric guitar, bass, and drums, and he taught himself how to play all of them. He is passionate about cars and mechanics, so he does repairs by himself on his car and on his motorcycle, and sometimes on other people's vehicles. Sometimes on the side, he makes wood furniture with a few friends of his. He also has a YouTube channel, and I will link it in the description so you can find him. He is a follower of Stoic Philosophy, which he applies in his life. He is also my brother. Hi, and welcome to my podcast. I'm very excited to have you here as my guest on today's episode, as I feel very inspired by you and your actions.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Um, I'm humbled by your opinion of me. Thank you very much.
That's all right. You're welcome. As I encountered the issue of procrastinating or delaying a project, and this podcast was due to be born earlier, I think it's fitting to have the first episode about all of these things that we're going to talk about. I'm thinking about perfectionism. I struggled, and I'm currently still struggling with the idea that if something I do is not perfect, then I shouldn't do it. Something in the lines of, well, if I'm not perfect, what's the point of even doing it? And if I begin a project, there are two ways onwards. Either I finish then, delete later, which I did with blogs I had, YouTube channels or videos, or I start the project, but I don't finish it. Like the book I started writing a few years ago. I abandon it based on the limiting belief that it should be perfect. So I'm not taking the risk of not being perfect. Sometimes the weird thing is I project this on others as well. So it's not like I'm not good enough compared to others, but I think they are not good enough either. You see, a lot of the times I think, man, if I posted that as an influencer or if I wrote that in a book as a writer, I would be so ashamed. So how could they? Ooh, you see, I would like to start by asking you if you ever felt like you have very high standards for you or for others, and how did that feel?
Well, for others, not really. That's how I let myself be surprised by and inspired by the work of other people. I have literally no expectations, and then I'm pleasantly surprised by everything I encounter. As for me, sure, I have high standards, but it's not like a requirement. It's not like you have to be this good to start. It's more of a thing like a goal. Yeah, I will live up to my standards one step at a time.
Mhm. Interesting. What do you think about powering through anxiety? If I may call it that, and doing the work, starting and finishing projects, even though you are aware it's not your best or it could be better. Is this a good way to deal with it, powering through?
Yes, I think so. Because it's not about if things become easier. It's about you becoming braver. There is something going on when you stop running from things that scare you and you turn around and voluntarily face your fears head on. When you do that, something changes in you and something changes in the world around you. And so, yeah, my advice would be power through every time.
All right. What do you think or feel about mistakes? the mistakes we make while doing the work that makes the work flawed in some sense. Do you think mistakes seen by others, so public mistakes, are actually a way for the audience to empathize with you, to feel connected to you?
Yes, in a sense, uh, that's the way the audience can tell if you're a real person or not, if you're a robot. uh, so, in my opinion, mistakes are like biological evolution. It's the same principle of mutating, an organism that's mutating and finding the best version of itself. Uh, you know, in at the end of the day, something perfect gets boring after 2 weeks. You know, art is about imperfection because, and everything in general, not just art, because when you create something, you put your own imprint on it, and that could be considered an imperfection if you come to think of it. So it's part of the process, part of the project.
So it makes it more authentic, right?
Exactly. Yep. It's your own fingerprint on it.
Do you think perfectionism is related to the ego, or it's just that we want to provide very good quality products or services to others? To put something really special out there in the world, but it doesn't matter who put it, only the quality of the products or the experience that matters.
Well, maybe it's probably about the ego because it's really hard, near impossible to create something perfect for everyone at the same time. Eh,
Mm-hmm.
People are very different, and my perfect can be very different from your perfect. So, as a creator, I think it's best to create your own perfect, and the people who need it and can make good use of it will find their way towards you.
On that note, Dita Fontis has a quote that I really like. She says, "You can be the ripest peach in the world, and somebody will still hate peaches."
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
She's right, you know.
Yeah. You know, regarding do it yourself projects, there are some things I do finish, and that is highlighting or cutting my own hair without having this fear of not being perfect.
All
I
right.
guess it's because it affects only me. So I allow myself to make these mistakes. I believe that any mistake I make, I can do or repair, or it doesn't really bother me. So maybe that's related to the audience thing that you said. It doesn't affect anyone else. And maybe also because of the pleasure that takes over the fear. So I want to ask you, do you think pleasure or feeling joy is an important part of beginning and finishing a project? Is feeling joy responsible for the "if what others think" attitude?
I like that. Well, the way I see it, DIY projects and hobbies make no sense whatsoever without that specific joy. I think it's that joy that drives you into adopting the role of the fool, where you give yourself permission to be naive once again in order to bypass ignorance and learn new stuff that could help you down the road. And it's the same moment when you allow yourself to be um, ridiculed, I may say, by other people without
Hmm,
fear, you know.
interesting. Yeah, I really like this idea and this concept that you just said, with allowing yourself to be naive and to make mistakes in order to learn something new or to create something new with your own hands. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's actually not my idea. It's from the it's from the Beyond Order book by Jordan Peterson.
All right, long live Peterson. All
Yep,
right, yeah, big fan here myself.
that's great.
So, I wanted to ask, what do you think about overthinking? Is overthinking a reason for procrastination? Let me show you an example of what
Sure.
if sometimes it's not about the journey or the result of the creation you have made, but about other people that are going to see or consume or experience your creation. I mean, sometimes a feeling of I'm responsible for others. For example, I'm not publishing my poetry or finishing my book because I feel that I'm responsible for what the book may stir in others, although I know everyone is responsible for himself and we all have free will and we make our own choices of what we read and in which way it will affect us positively or negatively. But for example, this is just an example of some thoughts I have, overthinking
Yeah.
that gets me nowhere, only blocks.
Yep.
So, what's your opinion on overthinking? You overthink, therefore you won't do it, or you won't do it because of the actual reasons?
Well, generally, I don't overthink that much because the way I see it, you are your own person. Uh, you are unique, and you just do what you love with your own time, and what others do with your content is their own business, and
Hmm.
it's no longer your responsibility at till a certain point when you have millions of followers and they listen to your every command. That's a different thing.
Yeah,
But until that moment, you can enjoy without pressure, uh, doing what you want to do and what you love to do, and just satisfy your own conscience.
I see. So, yeah, basically, you only have responsibility if you're doing something immoral, I think, or instigating people
Yeah,
to do something immoral, or that's not moral. I mean, and or some instigating violence or hatred or things like that. But otherwise, yeah, it's your content, and some people may have a breakthrough and be enlightened by your content, and others will just effing hate it and put it to the side.
exactly. That's exactly right. Yep.
All right. In your opinion, is there a way to avoid procrastination, or does it affect you as well?
Well, of course, it affects me as well. I'm not a robot, you know. uh, my solution is basically breaking things down and then doing the things I don't like first, and then relax with the things I do want to do, actually, with a clean conscience, you know.
Mhm. Can you give me an example?
Well, it's a classic example of taking out the trash. Everyone hates doing it. I can't imagine someone loving it. And then watching a movie or something, whatever floats your boat. I don't know.
Okay, but what if the thing that you're procrastinating is actually a thing that you do enjoy doing, but you just delay it and can't seem to put yourself together to do it? Did you ever experience that?
A few times, yeah, sure. Um, I don't know. It's just down to willpower and discipline, I guess, because we tend to think that we need to be motivated to do things, but to keep a habit, for example, you need discipline. In fact, motivation only gets you through the first 5 times of doing something, and
Oh,
then
I
the
think that's
rest.
hopeful.
Yeah.
5 times.
But you can't motivate yourself every time, you know. Maybe you're tired, maybe you're in a hurry, or you're sad, or I don't know. And the rest of the gaps are filled by pure discipline.
That's very enlightening, actually. So, thank you for that.
Sure.
I will remember that, and maybe our dear listeners here will hear from me more often.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Um, all right. Have you ever experienced overthinking after you posted the video or after you finished the project? Uh, for me, many times overthinking takes over even after I finished or posted the results of my work. And sometimes I'll find myself deleting it, or if I post something, I'll be editing it a few times. How do you avoid the after overthinking? Any advice?
Well, after I deliver something, I'm always relaxed about it because what's done is done, and that's my current level, my current skill level, you may say.
Mhm.
Sure, I can already think about ways to improve it, and I'll remember them for the next project. But I'm okay with this one, because it's also like when you look back at all the projects stacked up, you can see a timeline of your evolution, and that also helps.
Hmm.
And but if I haven't delivered the project yet, and I get ideas on how to improve it, then that's a different story. I'll stay and I'll put in the extra time until I am myself satisfied with it. Uh, I'll work on it until I have no more ideas on how to improve it.
Wow.
uh,
Wow.
and then I can post it happily, or deliver it. But I never delete them altogether. I believe everything can be saved, you know.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I've been restraining myself not to delete everything I post
Mhm.
on social media or on my YouTube channel. So some videos are still there, which I find that they have mistakes, but I choose to turn a blind eye or to look the other way,
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there are other videos that I have deleted, and I just think they were not good enough. I kept seeing mistakes,
yeah.
even after I finished it, and let's say I'll have 15 minutes of satisfaction and whoo, it's done finally. And then in the 16th minute, I'm like, oh, that could be improved.
Well, there's another upside to not deleting old stuff online because the way I see it, uh, other people can also see your progress when they see something very old from you, a piece of content, and they see mistakes like everybody, and they see more recent stuff, and it's upgraded. It's better,
Mhm.
and that gives everyone a sense of progression, not just yourself.
So basically, by making mistakes, someone becomes inspiring to others.
Yeah, exactly. You also become relatable.
Yeah, and I think you create a safe space for others to make mistakes and not be so hard on themselves as you were on yourself, you know.
That's actually spot on. Bravo.
Thank you. Um, Looking back to your creative journey, what thoughts come to mind? What advice would you give yourself from the past?
I think maybe don't rush projects. In the past, when I was a little younger, when I created something and I finished it, I used to believe that through that joy of creation, I was excited, and I always believed that what I did on my first try, it's good enough. It's perfect for me. I love it. It's my little baby, and there it goes into the world. But my advice now would be to just sleep on it. Sometimes one night it's enough. Just finish something. Don't deliver it yet. Just sleep on it and then come back. Maybe the next day or maybe just in a few hours. Just take a step back, take a pause, and see it from another perspective. And that's always good for me because that's the moment where all the ideas of improving it come around. And then I can make it better before delivering it. And yeah, I wish I knew that sooner.
So, what you're telling me and what you're describing is actually it's actually torture for me because I couldn't imagine. I mean, it's a feeling of joy, excitement, and anxiety in the same time,
Yeah.
because I feel that rush too, you know. And
Hmm.
when I do something and I finish it, I have to post it then. If you make me wait a few hours or a night or maybe a few days, that is absolute torture for me. So I guess I do have to work on my discipline and patience.
The thing is, I think, that when you return from a break and you're no longer excited, like the first time for that creation, and you see its flaws and you know it could be better. Uh, if that happens to me, but I don't have any idea on how to improve it, that's the trick. I just accept it as it is and accept myself at my current skill level. Hey, at least I can tell it's not perfect. So I'm not
Mm,
fully ignorant. And then
yes.
I accept it as it is and deliver it as such. If I get specific ideas on how to improve it, well, then I'm grateful I progressed, and then I improve it, and then I deliver it. So that's the thing. You can safely step back, without fear, because in 99% of the cases, it's not going to be good enough when you return.
Oh my
But
God. So you
when you
can
accept
just
that,
relax.
when you accept that, it's liberating.
Mm.
And if you don't have any idea on how to improve it, that's life. Just deliver it as it is. Maybe some other people will have constructive criticism and help you. Or maybe you'll just look back on it on a few months and say, oh, I could have done this and this and this. And that will show you that you have progressed.
That's very interesting. So I never thought of it this way. Uh, Looking and, well, basically patting myself on the back because at least I can see my work is flawed.
Yeah.
At least I'm not ignorant. That actually blew my mind.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. And yeah, it seems like the idea of self improving yourself and watching yourself progress is kind of a motivation for you um, to do stuff, do creative stuff, and live your life.
Yeah, of course. It's all about testing your limits, you know. It doesn't have to be painful or tiring. Maybe it's just fun sometimes.
I want to ask you, how is Stoic philosophy related to your project and way of being creative, being self taught in so many areas, and to your life? Do you think there's a connection there?
Yes, of course. You know, there's a perfect quote for this one. Marcus
Tell me.
Aurelius said, "Do not think that what is hard for you to master is humanly impossible. And if it is humanly possible, consider it to be within your reach." I love this quote because for me, it explains that we're all humans, and basically almost anything is possible, and that's a lot, you know. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things there. So
So,
it's just about the attitude of I'm gonna try this, and then I'm gonna try doing that, and just for fun, you know. If it works
do,
out, that's all right.
do you think do you think that having this background of Stoic philosophy, um, do you think it helps you with your discipline in work?
Yeah, I think it does. Um,
So, would you recommend this type of philosophy to creators of all sorts?
Actually, I'd recommend it to basically everyone alive.
That's nice.
Because it's also changing it changes your whole life, you know, the whole perspective on life, death, time, everything,
Hmm.
and that
Yes,
seeps into the creative process as well.
I couldn't agree with you more.
That's great.
So, what's your advice to someone who feels they'd love to do things, but they are anxious or they always delay actually doing the work?
Well, to do what I do, and that is firstly make a plan that you're satisfied with, and then break it down into parts, then no, I don't know, chapters,
Yeah.
then tasks, and then you go small, like really small. Like if you want to become a published author, you have to write a book, right? But to write a book, you have to write chapters, and then you have to write pages, and then you have to write a paragraph. Your
Yeah.
task for now is just write the first sentence. And then you take one step at a time, one task at a time. Every day you compound things, and then the whole challenge, the whole project is not so daunting anymore, you know? It
Hmm.
becomes manageable being small. That's my trick.
That's a very good advice. I I never I never approached this method before, you know. When I have an idea, uh like a big idea, I get myself very excited about it.
Yeah.
If we are with the example of the book, I
Yeah.
had this idea. I had the title, I have the theme, the subject. So I started writing, full of excitement, and I wrote three chapters.
All right.
Um, and I don't know how many pages, but there were, I don't know, like 20 something pages in the first 3 days,
All
you
right.
see.
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
and then came nothingness. So,
Well, why did you stop?
well, I thought maybe I wrote enough for 3 days. Maybe I'll write some more next week. And then next week something else came up, and then 2 years later I was like, "Hey, I should write in my book, right?" So I wrote another 2 pages, and then another year uh, passed, and then I wrote another 3 pages, and then I think half a year, and then 1 page, and it's been 2.5 years since I haven't been written anything.
Yeah, I see. I see.
So I'm really not a good example of consistency in this matter. I mean,
Well, it could change anytime.
yeah. And it's also thanks to you, because this idea of taking it step by step, um, it's, I've heard about it before, right? There's
Yeah.
even a meme with it. It's a guy that tries to walk up a staircase, and the steps are very far apart,
Okay.
and basically he couldn't reach the first step at all. And another guy with a staircase that has smaller distances between the steps, so he's already near the top,
Oh,
and
I
it
see. Okay.
says the importance of taking small steps. But I think something very interesting in what you said is that you combine taking small steps with discipline and consistency.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yep, you got it.
Uh, because me writing a page, well, that's a small step next to 3 chapters,
Yeah, of
but
course.
there was the discipline that was lacking.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. I really hope that our listeners enriched their experience by
Yep.
listening to us talk today.
Hmm.
And thank you once again for your presence in this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to us today. May you have a wonderful day ahead or a beautiful night, whichever the case. I'm looking forward to having you listen to my next episode. Until next time, bye bye.